I know the value that HomeAid brings to the table, without question. I can talk about that forever. But one particular project we did 2 years ago was a building that was acquired, a large building, an old building, and it was going to be a group home for formerly incarcerated women. And so we got pulled into the project after the plans had been submitted and permitted already. And we went and we were sat down with a board member of that particular organization, as well as the architects. And it was myself and another board member as part of our shelter, our project team. And in looking at the plans, there were some things that didn't make sense. I mean, we knew we were building out this building to go from, it was a commercial space that had been used as offices, and we were turning it into, I believe, 20 units, 20 rooms in order to serve 20 to 22 women. And there were a few things in that project that just did not make programmatic sense, right? And I mean, that alludes a little bit to some of my knowledge of women coming out of incarceration, not personal experience. But some of the things, like for instance, the kitchen had one stove and one fridge. The bathrooms had been planned out and again permitted, that they were going to be trough-style sinks and showers next to each other, so 2 women per bathroom. And of course I stepped back and I asked the questions, and I asked, the nonprofit was not present at that meeting, and I stopped all projects, meetings and following, and said until they came to the table and really talked about what they needed. And I had so many questions as to why we would bring women transitioning out of incarceration to a space that felt very much like incarceration. Yeah. So it's details like that when we sat down and the nonprofit actually came to the table and said, oh, we never thought about that. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and when there are different entities and different companies involved, you're trying to make it nice and trying to make it better and trying to make it different. But, architects and builders don't know the programmatic needs. No. The nonprofit really has to be at the table. And they really have to look at it as what's necessary and what's going to help these women coming out of incarceration to really transition back to daily life. Right. And so we stepped back, we completely changed the plans, we resubmitted for permits, and then we were able to move forward with separate bathrooms. There's dignity in that, right?
Yes,
taking a shower by yourself after being incarcerated for any amount of time.
That's correct.
And then expanding the kitchen so that they could do cooking classes and that the women could have space for, that's a lot of women in one space. Yeah. And so having space to put their own food and their own groceries and that kind of stuff. So I took a lot of pride in that project, realizing how important my vast knowledge is in working with so many different nonprofits and understanding that although I am not a service provider myself, I have learned a lot about what is needed and what we've been able to do with different projects. I mean, we've done 155 construction projects in 20 years.
That's a lot.
And although I haven't been involved in all of them, I've looked back at them and we can see as we sort of grow and realize what nonprofits maybe need or should think about programmatically when they're doing construction.